and that's the end of the game. They might all die. I didn't actually think you would, but when I realized that suggestion was on his spell list, I was like, oh no.
Maybe.
Watch it, son.
Depended on who I cast it on.
Yeah.
If it was you and Spirit Guardian.
Well, I metagamed it as the DM, and I said, oh, you have the shittiest wisdom modifier out of everybody. I'm going to cast it on you.
Makes sense.
Because you're both wisdom classes. So anyway, welcome back, folks. Sorry for the delay. We were kind of going through experience and everything from the game that just passed. So this is Dungeons & Dragons and Discussions, or Triple D, if you like. We are going to be going, this is our discussion show. We did this last week, and we did tips for new DMs, and we had an awesome dialogue with those of you in the chat. So hopefully there are people watching again this week, and I realize it might not be, almost Thanksgiving, people are away, whatever. But that's not going to stop us, so it'll just be the four of us talking. If you guys are there watching and you want to chime in, send us comments, tell us your tips or mistakes you've seen your DMs make, mistakes you've made as a DM, things like that. If not, we've got a couple of things going on here, and we'll see what happens. So, how's everybody doing? How was the game?
The game went well, I thought.
Well.
I was happy with
I like Lost Minds of Vandal.
Yeah.
It's a plus in my book.
We gotta go and...
I do think it is a very good... This is the starter set campaign. This is what you get when you want to get used starting with D&D. This is what they tell you to play. I think it's pretty good. It has a nice mix of all monsters. You know, you get your almost beholder, you get your undead, you get a dragon. You know, lots of good stuff. There's dungeons. You know, you do the whole thing. I feel like it's a little light on the role playing.
Yeah.
I guess it could go a little more if you really wanted to focus on the town.
Well, I have a question, because you said with the Wraith, we cut down a lot of your roleplay. Like, whoa.
He hates the spectator, and like you could have bargained with him to like, you take out this and I won't fight you, kind of a thing.
Oh.
So he had some bargaining, and he was intrigued by people being there, and so was what's his face. You could have tried to bargain with the Drow at the end, because he was very intrigued by just your characters in general. I think the Flame Skull too, you could have tried to reason with. There were a lot of options and potential to reason with a lot of the enemies in this dungeon.
Okay. Well.
You basically did the spectator as best you could by just convincing it that it, like, you worked there as a wizard, and you're like, get out of here, stupid.
Be gone. How tough was it?
The spectator?
Yeah.
Because
I know beholders are insane.
Yeah.
Spectator is CR3.
Oh, okay.
It has 4 eye rays. So its eye rays, it uses 2 of its eye rays each turn. They have a range of 90 feet. The first one's Confusion Ray, DC 13 Wisdom save. Can't take reactions until the end of its turn. On its turn, the target can't move and uses its action to make a melee or ranged attack randomly against a creature within range.
Okay.
If it can't attack, it does nothing. Paralyzing Ray, DC 13 Con save, paralyzed for a minute. Fear Ray, DC 13 Wisdom save, be frightened for a minute. And the Wounding Ray, DC 13 Con save, take 3d10 necrotic damage.
Shit. Paralyzing and wounding.
It also has Spell Reflection. Makes a successful saving throw against a spell, or the spell misses it. Spectator can choose another creature within 30 feet of it, and then it reflects that spell back at that creature. So if it gets Guiding Bolt,
had I missed with the Guiding Bolt,
it would have made it hit you, basically. Has Telepathy, has a Bite attack, which sucks. 14 AC, 40 health, and it can just float. Oh, and it can create food and water enough to sustain itself for 24 hours. So
we could have got it.
I think you could have taken it. The Flame Skull is the hardest part, because he had the Fireball. He also had Blur, which I didn't get a chance to cast, which makes him harder to hit.
Yeah.
Flaming Sphere. He had a pretty solid set of attacks.
Yes.
But a lot of these guys they were, like, the Wraith had immunity to a ton of things. The Wraith was immune to necrotic and poison damage, immune to charmed, grappled, paralyzed, petrified, poisoned, prone, restrained, and resistance to acid, cold, fire, lightning, thunder, bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing from non-magical weapons that aren't silver. So actually, you should have been doing half damage, because I didn't realize that. Because you had magical weapons, but they weren't silvered. So I haven't actually figured out if that's a compounding thing.
No, don't they have to
I guess it would be silver or magic,
yeah.
I guess. Yeah. Either way. So I think it's a pretty good thing. I think it's the best of the pre-written campaigns that I've played so far.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
Better than Rise of Tiamat, better than Lost Minds, or better than Horde of the Dragon Queen, I think.
I
More
agree.
balanced, I'd say.
Yeah.
I don't think you were ever really in a spot where you were really over. I mean, you guys were kind of over, like a little over leveled anyway. And I made that guy up. That first mission was it's the end designed for 4 people, and you went in with 2, so it was a little rough. But yeah, so let's before we kind of dive into that topic, the topic of the day, I just wanted to talk about Rangers. I mentioned this briefly to you. I mentioned it kind of briefly to you guys, but the survey of the month last month for Wizards of the Coast was, what should we do about Rangers? We realize Rangers are awful.
Cut them out. No more Rangers.
No more Rangers.
Well,
Fuck it.
And I actually had somebody make a comment on one of our YouTube videos, Mike Gould, I believe his name is, and he said, it's probably going to upset you, but, it's a differing opinion, and, don't mean to upset you. It's fine, I agree, it's just a conversation, I'm playing with a Ranger, I don't think it's all about min-max, blah, blah, blah. I'm playing with a Ranger in my game currently, and we're having a really good time. And, again, the ultimate goal of Dungeons & Dragons is to have fun, so if you're having fun with the way the game, the way it is, then by all means. But, I guess, to that same extent, they wouldn't be doing a whole survey on how to fix the Ranger and make it better, and talking about changing everything if there wasn't an issue.
Yeah.
So, let me just go to their website here and I'll pull up the exact article that they said, because it sounds like they're listening, which is, I guess, the best part. Wizards of the Coast is listening to people, they're listening to the complaints, and they want to make things better.
They could be listening right now.
They could be. Maybe they are. That'd be great. So...
Brought to you by Truckers.
Let's see. There are 2 interesting elements that emerge from the survey. To start with, 2nd and 3rd edition Ranger are the ones that are most well-received versions of the class. 2 versions mix an animal companion with wilderness skills, spellcasting, and a unique fighting style focused on wielding 2 weapons. 3rd edition added an archery option. They seem to match closest with ratings given to the design-directed outline in the Ranger article. The concept of a wilderness champion and defender along the lines of Paladin isn't very popular, but people do like a Ranger who can survive in the wilderness through a combination of skill and magical abilities. Given the background, it's no surprise that a Ranger class that de-emphasizes magic and lacks a full-time in-the-flesh companion received fairly poor ratings. For the next step, we'll take a pass on designing a Ranger that focuses more heavily on the animal companion and makes it a default part of the class. This approach allows much more of the Ranger's core power budget to go towards the companion. You can think of that budget as the total effectiveness the class brings to bear spread out across its class features. The initial 5e design pushed the animal companion into the Ranger archetype choice, requiring to sit atop all the core class features. By folding that choice into the core class, we have a lot more power to play with. I think it's actually going to what a lot of people envision a Ranger in most typical MMOs and video games to be.
Sure.
And I think it's more in the lines of what I want in a Ranger. I don't know what you guys think about that.
I've never played a Ranger, but, I mean, seems like a good way to do it. I mean, the Beastmaster is just terrible.
Yeah.
It's just, Hunter's okay.
Yeah.
But Beastmaster's terrible.
Real bad. I don't know. I guess I'm just kind of worried that they're going to swing it the other way.
Make it too powerful?
Yeah. Be like, oh, you have a bear, and you also have 2 attacks with your bow, so you're taking 4 attacks per turn.
At level 5.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
And that's every turn you can make 4 attacks, or...
Unless you have 2 bears.
Unless you have 2 bears.
It's tricky because if you look at it one way, you can say, well, like, a level 5 fighter with Action Surge does 4 attacks, but Action Surge is limited.
Yeah.
But...
And then again, 2 of the attacks are with a bear, so they're not going to be as good as yours, so you're probably not going to hit as often, and... I don't know. I guess, yeah, and the other reason is that, like, level 1 through 5 build that Wizards released...
That's what they're saying, they're de-emphasizing that. That's what they were saying, where it wasn't well received, and the whole, that doesn't have an actual companion and not an in-the-flesh companion was poorly received, so they're steering away from that.
Okay, good, because, like, the fact that it had more hit die, it had a better hit die than a barbarian, I was like, already, I was like, no, you're trying too hard.
You messed it up from point 1.
Yeah.
So it looks like they're going. It's basically the real question that I have is what happens to the existing ranger. Does it exist? Is this a change to this? Is this like a new archetype? It doesn't sound like it. Sounds like it's a brand new class.
Yeah, it sounds
overhaul.
like they're changing.
And are we going to have to wait for a published book for it to technically be official? Or when they release it in a PDF, is it considered, will it be like a canon class?
That would make sense for them to, if they're trying to retcon it and fix it up, it would be kind of rude to,
Well, we had to, for the Sword Coast Adventure Guide, we had to wait a year.
Yeah.
Like it was a full year from the release of these core books before we got the Sword Coast Adventure Guide. I feel like we need something like soonish,
Yeah.
like March.
Like it should have been in the Sword Coast Adventure Guide.
Right, exactly. Something soon. But anyway, that's get a little precursor stuff. So, mistakes dungeon masters make. I don't know what you guys want to go around the room and talk about mistakes you've made, mistakes you've seen made in games you've played. But let's talk about. We talked about what tips for new DMs. Let's kind of give them mistakes that are commonly made by dungeon masters.
I feel like there's going to be a lot of, not a lot, but there's going to be a bunch of overlap.
Sure.
Between last week and this week. But, I mean, I'll throw out the first mistake I made was following the book rules too much. I had a fighter in one of my games who wanted to pick up a dude and throw him across a chasm at another dude. And he had I think he had a 20 strength or an 18 strength. He had really good strength.
No problem.
So he runs up and we're like, oh shit, alright, how are we going to have him do this? Alright, cool. It's a grapple check. So that's your turn. So he did the grapple check. But I still want to throw him, so I'm going to action surge so I can throw him. Alright, cool. You do now make a ranged
attack.
Make a ranged attack with this person and try and hit him with the other person. And he did, and he rolled really well. So I was like, cool. It's an improvised weapon, it does 1 damage. So he wasted his action. So that was me being just a dick. I was like, there's no rule. It's an improvised weapon. Improvised weapons do 1 damage. Those are the rules.
Oh.
Don't do that. Don't do that. He wanted to do
Cried
it.
a little.
If that was going to be how I ended it, I should have said it at the beginning.
Right.
If you're going to follow the rules that close, like, yeah, you could pick him up and throw him at the other dude, but it's an improvised weapon, so it's only doing 1 damage. Roll with it. He was excited. I should have just let him be excited and do his fun thing and made up a bunch of damage that they both would have taken, because that makes way more sense than it doing 1 damage when he got hit with a human.
From across
Alternatively, he could have just thrown him down the chasm and he would have taken bludgeoning damage.
Oh, like a
falling.
shit ton. They were like you were like 40 feet up or something like that.
Would have killed the guy, but
He wanted to do a fun thing, and I should have let him.
yeah.
Fun thing.
I guess that kind of keys on a point that I would just kind of talk off of that is, kind of it's not your game as the DM. It's our game. It's like a player DM combo. It's not all about you telling your story, you doing what you want to do. It's, again, we kind of talked about it last week too, but take a step back, let the players do their thing. Like, if you guys just want to sit there and talk about stone cutting and what stones and limbos are for half an hour, I don't care. Do your if you guys and again, to kind of caveat that, as long as everybody's engaged in that,
Right.
fine. Like, if there were 6 of you here and 3 of you were going off about limbo and the other 3 just looked bored, well, then it's on you as the dungeon master to kind of like, all right, let's get things going. But if you guys are all having a fun time just bullshitting in the bar in the town, who am I to interrupt that with story because I want the game to move along? If you guys are having fun, then that's fine. I think that's something that DMs typically make is you might get too invested in your own story and want to tell it. So you push people in one way or another, or you don't want to let people just do their own thing. You want to no, we got to do this. And I feel like some of that happened with our games because we had limited time and we're only going to play for 2 days over a weekend once a month. So if people just want to bullshit in the town, you feel like you're losing something.
Yeah.
Right.
Whereas this, we play every week.
Yeah.
So if you guys stick around for 2 hours on one night, we're just going to play next week, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Right.
So that was my little piece on that. I don't know. You guys want to expand on that or anything else?
I'll expand on that. Maybe if you say you have a larger group and they all have their own different backstories, so they're all bringing a different perspective to maybe focusing on the story at that point in time, maybe a bad thing you might want to try and rewrite almost in improv incorporating different aspects that different characters
Bring in.
that are really wanting to do, you know, maybe play off of a little side quest here, throw in a little extra just to appease that character and make them happier, because then everybody's going to have a better time because of that.
I agree.
Gotta engage the characters. Mistakes DMs make. You ever DMing and you're like, oh, that NPC was supposed to say like 3 more things and I totally forgot to do that. And it's like, and then the wizard chases you out of town and reminds you that you forgot. He was sipping tea and was like, oh crap.
One more thing.
And then he teleports and he's like, by the way, and then he teleports away. But sometimes it's hard to do that because you're like, and then they left the cave and that was 3 days ago. And you're like, you know, you got to find some way to make it so that they can find out all the information they had to. So you got to be fluid within your own DMing and come up with some, you know, sneaky way to put the information in.
I'd say consistency, writing things down, big. If you come up with a name for an NPC, maybe write it down.
Yeah.
So you don't forget the character's name, or you come up with 8 different names
I
every
don't know what
time.
you're talking about.
Yeah. Because I wrote a lot of the NPCs' names down as a player.
Aha.
So I knew the names.
Yeah, so did I. I knew him.
Almost knew the names.
When he said the names, they rang a bell.
Sure.
Yeah, like Sir Guy of Corner.
Sir Guy of Corner. I wrote down Sir Guy of Corner.
Sir Guy.
He's in. I will show you Sir Guy of Corner. He's in with Death to Fam. No, that's Seek the Keep. No, that's Back in Time. Portal. No. First Cancel. No.
Anyway.
Right above the Xenotrim. Sir Guy of Corner.
Alright.
Yeah.
Alright.
Council members. I wrote them down. And
Um,
I remembered Leonardo and Donatello and Mikey Angelo.
yep. That's true.
Was there a rap?
No, there wasn't.
Not yet.
There hadn't been one yet.
Huh.
Not yet.
Not yet. So what else?
Rapping.
Well, this is one we kind of talked about beforehand. Over planning.
Yeah.
As a DM, or under planning, but we'll talk over planning
Yeah,
first.
sure.
Is you sit there and you spend, and this kind of ties back into my other point, where you sit there and you spend hours designing your world or a town or one specific NPC, and you're like, yeah, this is gonna be great, and then the players are like, I don't want to talk to that guy, fuck him, and you move on, and you're like,
Yeah.
Come back.
but
He wants to talk to you.
they're like, no, we don't care. But and then again, that comes into that like, it's not your game, it's their game.
Yeah.
Don't force them to talk to this guy because you put all this effort into this one guy, or like you build up this whole little like stronghold or this little area of the city, and they're like, okay, cool, we go to the barracks and get some food, and then we leave, and you're like, but there's like the tavern over there is like awesome, and they're like, yeah, we're not doing that. I'm like, we're leaving.
We got other stuff to do.
Yeah,
Goodbye.
we're gonna go.
Yeah, like we're ready to go, and it's, so you spend all this time planning, and then you as the DM are heartbroken that like
You guys just skipped
they
out
just
on something
give up
awesome.
on it. And then the flip side of that, which I'm more known to do this more than anything, is under planning, where you don't really pick anything out, and you just kind of thinking that, I mean, the best DM can't even do this, where you're just gonna wing everything on the fly.
Yeah.
Especially if you're fairly new to the game as a new DM or whatever it is, winging stuff and coming up with stuff on the fly is not going to be the easiest thing. I mean, maybe if you've been playing 5th edition for 15 years, yeah, maybe you can wing something on the fly just because you know so much about it.
Right.
But like, 5th edition is not even, it's a year old at this point. Like,
Yeah. How much could you know?
right, and you know, there's complicated things and there's rules and different ways to go about stuff and different enemies, so... I don't know. I guess over planning and under planning, big mistakes, I think, that people typically make.
Sure. Yeah, and you know, not picking up on your player cues, because sometimes players will be super interested in something, and you know, you just kind of like, all right, and that's the end of that, because you know, I'm not really interested in this.
Yeah.
So
Right.
sorry, didn't think it was cool, and we're done.
Yes.
On to the next thing. Yeah, so that's you know, you gotta watch your players, because you know, you get your own satisfaction out of watching them do all this stuff, but you know, you gotta throw them bones here and there if they
Sure.
find something cool.
I would agree with that.
And don't throw the same things at them all the time, constantly. It gets old killing 30 goblins in a group.
And
Yes.
an ogre.
Yeah.
And another
Different
ogre.
variety.
And another ogre. This one punches
Yeah.
instead of using a maul.
Good thing.
Yeah. Who's getting new?
What do I do?
Let him punch me, because I've got a 24 armor class. Overpowering your players is super easy to do, because you want them to be fun and interesting with awesome magic items. And then they all have like a +9 to their attacks, and you're like, oops.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw level 14 guys at you, because that's basically where you are now.
Yeah.
Fighting Randall and just not having enough to throw at him.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you
out
overpowering
half the
your
city
guys,
yourself.
your players is definitely a thing that you can if you throw in a lot of magic items. Which I feel like is part of the reason the way the system is designed. Magic items are de-emphasized quite a bit. But again, you played through the starter campaign. There's still a fair amount of magic items that came up through
Yep.
this.
Yeah.
I mean, I added in a couple myself, but a lot of these were in there,
Yeah.
like right off the bat. So
Bag of tricks. That was the most useful item.
that was a random one,
Yeah.
but that one helped the most. But yeah, overpowering your players because, like you said, you're gonna run into the point where you're like, all right, well now I gave you all this, so I can't throw a current challenge rating and monster at you. I have to throw something more powerful, but that more powerful monster might even still be too powerful for you.
Yeah.
Because like this more powerful monster might have spells. I'm like, okay, you have +2 to your AC, but he hits you with a fireball and you only have 20 health, so you're dead.
Oops.
Well, you wouldn't realistically be hitting him till like 6 levels from now, and you'd have more health to survive a fireball.
Right. One fireball wouldn't be a total party kill.
Right. What else? Mistakes that dungeon masters typically make. How about mistakes that you've had DMs make in games that you've played?
I think you've done a pretty good job
Oh,
so
appreciate
far.
that. A suck up, but that's fine.
Yeah. I don't know. Tom spent a lot of time talking to himself. Like, as 2 different NPCs, he would have like
Yes,
4
that's
or
true.
5 minute conversations with himself, like in different voices, which is okay a little. But like, if you're the only person talking to yourself, that's not good as a DM.
True.
I would agree with that.
Love to be in goblins. Love talking like goblins.
He
for some
did
reason.
love talking like
It was
goblins.
a little weird.
It was a little weird.
Kobolds.
Yeah.
Yeah, and kobolds. Yeah, he loved that.
Oh, and if you're in the middle of like being a DM, you shouldn't just like, oh, and here's a story totally unrelated to Dungeons and Dragons, and I just feel like talking to you guys because you're my captive audience.
Yeah. It's easy to get sidetracked in D&D. Everybody knows that. But as the DM, sidetracking your players, like if they get sidetracked, I mean, yeah, it's kind of your idea to steward them back if they want to keep playing.
Right.
But don't purposefully disjoint the game just because you have some thing you want to tell them.
Yeah.
Take a break, schedule breaks like we talked about it then, wait till after.
Breaks are good.
Breaks are
key.
good. Yeah.
You know, that kind of stuff. But let's see. Overusing the rules, or stopping the game to find rules,
Yeah.
or things like that, or waiting for there to be hoping like I think there's a rule for this, and taking hours, 15 minutes, whatever, half an hour to find a rule, when you can just don't be afraid to make a ruling call yourself, and just.
Well, how
All
are you
right.
supposed to jump over stuff?
Well, let's just say it's going to be this. And then again, the conversation about consistency, unless you do go through the effort of finding out what that rule actually is later on, stick with the rule you came up with early on so that your players are used to that.
Yeah. And unless something's super unreasonable, you know?
Correct. Yeah.
Like if you didn't feel like looking up the rules to how you would fight, like how you would ride on a large or huge creature's back and attack him, and then you were just like, I don't know, fine, you can do it, and then he killed a dragon in 1 turn. Then you look up that rule because
What?
you ruined that. Yeah, that happened.
Yeah?
Yeah, well, that wasn't me. It was
No, it wasn't me. It was another guy. I had a young blue dragon attacking the 2 of them, so it wasn't like crazy overpowered.
Right.
He Misty stepped onto his back, the dragon's back, attacked 3 times, action surge, attack 3 times, the dragon was dead.
Huh.
Yeah, I didn't even get to hit it.
Oops. Like, alright, I should look up that rule. And then when I looked up that rule, it's like, yeah, your action is holding on and not dying.
It's a fair action.
Yeah, it makes more sense than, I'm just, like, surfing the dragon. Yeah.
It was awesome.
It was.
That is pretty
It
cool.
was. But as a DM, I was like, I can't let this happen.
I'm gonna grapple him and then I'm gonna pin the dragon midair.
You should have tried. Yeah.
Pin its
Yeah,
wings.
strength.
We well, we kind of did stuff like that in the future. We link attacked the dragon.
Yeah, that's what
Nice.
that was my compromise. You can
Yeah.
like attack him.
And
That's
then
fair.
like your sword is stuck in it.
And you
so
hold
you're,
out of your
you're
sword.
holding onto your sword. But like the guy who did that only had a great sword. So like he couldn't take the sword out and attack again. I happened to have a dagger, so I like
Stab him.
I smite stabbed it with my dagger as a paladin to do extra damage.
Nice.
And then when you killed it, hang glided.
Yeah, I like opened the wings and
And hold him. Hold the
And
wings.
my character was working. He didn't get to do it before we fought Tiamat, but he has somebody working on like dragon glider, like taking the wings and making the
Oh.
glider, so he can like
Fly.
Batman. Not
Awesome.
not fly, glide.
Okay. Fly.
Aim for them, sorry.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
without I guess if there was an updraft, I could float, but more like if I leapt off a
Batman.
high enough building, I could like
I am the knight.
yeah, Batman style.
Nice. That's pretty cool.
I guess I'd be a light in the darkness,
Yeah.
being an Oath of the Ancients paladin.
Mhm.
So not exactly the knight.
No.
More like a light.
The
a
night
beacon
light.
in the night. The night light.
The night light. I am the night light.
You know what? My character loved
Oddly
titles,
comforting.
so he might be the night light. Add that to his list of titles.
Oddly comforting. The nightlight's on its way.
Lay on hands. Come on.
You know, get a proficiency with a grappling hook,
Yeah.
something like that. But anyway, what else can you guys think of mistakes that dungeon masters make?
The
Not
players.
using logic.
Sorry.
Not using logic.
Logic is your friend.
Well, it's also hard to use logic though in a fantasy game.
Yeah, but at the same time,
The in-game logic,
the in-game logic.
such
You got an
as.
example?
Sequence of events, like when we were trying to do the group attack when I misty stepped over to the drow and you said there was a table.
Yeah.
So there's a, we're playing in the mine, so we don't actually have a map, but at the same time you kept with the spiders had to crawl
On the
around
wall.
the wall.
thing.
It wasn't all of a sudden all
There's
the
a spiders
spiders
that's
just
there,
boom,
sure.
attack too.
Okay. That's a good point. You were gonna say something?
I was gonna say the players aren't your enemy.
Yeah.
It's not you against the players, and it's hard to not feel that way because you are all the enemies, and that are.
Triple enemy guy. He dies.
Pain guy 33 for following.
Oh, nice. Thank you.
And
So, yeah.
they do stuff that pisses you off, like attack your NPC who's just trying to give him a quest.
Yeah.
You're not your enemy. You're not supposed to kill them. And even if they're a dick about not dying, and they kind of challenge you to kill them,
Don't.
Unless they roll a 1.
they're having fun being unkillable. Just let it fly.
I mean,
Until it doesn't.
I've heard of DMs talking to other players and taking out contracts with one player to kill another player. I've heard that that's a thing that can happen.
Don't
Yeah.
do it. Intro to DM-Mistakes. Like it wouldn't be terrible if you did it.
Speaking as the character
People-
who was given the contract to kill the other
I
player.
wouldn't say contract. I just said if he died at your hands, you might get an extra magic item. That's all I said.
A very good magic item.
That's all I said.
Extraordinary or whatever.
It was at least very
I
rare.
don't remember.
At least
What was
very.
it?
At least very rare. We didn't talk about what the item would be.
Oh.
We just said it would be an item.
You mean in this hypothetical story?
In this hypothetical
Ha!
situation,
It's a can of
It's a
spiders.
different thing. How do you know it's a can of spiders? How do you know it's in the can?
It just sounds like spiders.
How do you know what spiders sound like?
Like this.
In a can.
Listen.
It's a circular argument.
Yeah. That argument's
Yeah.
about-
So I guess that's my point.
yeah, I guess that's a good one too. Don't treat your players as an enemy because they're not. Trying to think anything else that comes up that you guys have seen that have been just like a flat out mistake.
I haven't been playing for too long.
Yes, that's true. What about all the times I played in the past, Sean? No other game. I mean, 3.5 is different, but the stuff is still the same.
A lot of the mistakes you can make are the same.
About mistakes that I made in that game.
I mean, honestly, my only complaint about you as a DM in 3.5 was you didn't plan anything, and we already talked about that.
Yeah, that's true.
You're in a town, and there's a building. Oh, we go into the building, and then we burn it down, and there's an arena now. The town's called Kerfuffle. All right.
All these things are good to know as you go through town.
Yeah. So like, I mean, it always ended up being fun.
Yeah.
But
I tried to keep the downtime of making stuff up pretty minimal.
if you're gonna create your own world and your own rules, at least try and make them
Reasonable.
make sense in the world, or flat out say that at the beginning. Like when we were playing, and Hedge was like, "Yeah, elves hate magic. If you use magic around them, they're gonna attack you." Playing within like
that rule.
the Forgotten Realms as it's written, that makes no sense and that's stupid. If you're gonna if you want to do something weird like that, I would say come out in front. Be like, "Hey, I'm switching up the rules. This is gonna be a different world. Elves are gonna hate magic, and humans are gonna have an extra eye in their head.
And gnomes
that
are all going to
only
be
sees
technologically
smells."
advanced.
Yeah, that's kind of something I was thinking about, and it kind of goes along the lines of what I did for that other game, which I put all that effort in. That game's barely been played at all.
Yeah.
But I basically designed this entire campaign Bible, as I called it, that was like, okay, here's an entire history of the world that you're going to be playing in. Here's a history of the area. Here's a history of the campaign. Here's a list of all the classes that are allowed. Here's a list of all the races that are allowed. Here's how I kind of want the style of game to go. I want your backstory to be heavily played into this. Here's adventure hooks you can choose from to tie your character into the overall campaign. Here are, your options for trinkets. Here's how magic's going to go. If you play this character, it's going to be better than this character. This race is going to get something to make itself better, and so on and so forth. This whole big thing. But I guess it kind of goes into, like you were saying, if you have weird stuff or you have a weird idea of how things are going to go, state up front what you want to do. Is your game going to be heavy combat? It's going to be heavy RP? Get that out up front, because that could be make or break for some players, and you don't want to find that out halfway through that you've played 2 games and you've had 1 combat encounter, and the rest has all been just role-playing.
Chit-chat.
Which is fine if that's what you want to do as a DM, and your players are okay with it. Like me personally, I like games that are more RP heavy with less combat. A lot of the pre-written stuff have a lot more combat than that, and I play with a lot of people that get bored of talking and want to fight stuff, so that can also lead to the fighting of NPCs that you don't want your players to fight because they're just bored and want to fight something. Because fighting is instant gratification, 2-hour gratification, really, in some cases. But
yeah, long fights with lots of characters.
Yeah, I always like the, there might be combat related things, but I like the, maybe I can do this entire thing. Like in a game that I played, we ended up in a town after some unsavory things we did in another town. We ended up in one town, and we had to meet a contact there. And he was like, okay, here's a super sketchy guy, and he was like, you got to do these things. Like, you got to go capture, kidnap the town, the head of the town, his wife and his daughter. And so we did recon for hours, watching to see when guards did shift changes and all that, and at night snuck in and kidnapped them. They were, we were level 6 characters in a much more powerful based game. I just, we just grabbed them.
Right.
And, there was no combat. We just grabbed them and left. And, that was a whole thing. And, we brought them back to our base, and we're like, okay, we've got them. Waited for our contact to show up. And then he was like, okay, now cut off the hand of the little girl and send it back to the father and say, here's our demands. It was a thing. There was no combat involved.
Did you do it?
I didn't. I would have. My character would have.
Ah.
But we had a lawful good monk.
Uh-huh.
And the guy that was our contact was just flat out chaotic evil.
Yeah.
And I was like, he's like, cut off her hand. And I was like, and he was like, no, I want him to do it. So he made the lawful good monk cut the hand off the little girl and send it back to her father and say, if you want to see the rest of your family, you better listen to our demands. So he forced the lawful good character, he was in tears. The player was in tears, over
rough.
this.
I probably wouldn't have done it.
And then I was like, being me, I was like, suck it up, you pussy. Like, and then like he attacked me and burnt our bar down, and I was like,
Thanks, dick.
fucking prick. So like, I mean, granted, the first chance I had to turn on our contact, I jumped on him and killed the guy. But,
Sure.
you know, I don't know. I played very chaotic in that game. Like I would rescue somebody from the prison and have them come with me, and then the first chance I had to sell them under the bus, I did to get something else. Like,
Sure.
rescued this guy, this gnome who was the best like magic item creator in the world. Like worked for this great salamander metal magic forge guy. I was like, you're coming with us. And then he like all he did was tell us about how awful his master was. And then like at one point we just left him because the town guard was showing up, and I'm like, later, I'm out. And then like we found his boss, and his boss was like, I'm trying to find my apprentice, he's so good. And then like he's like, I've tried every spell I could think of. And I was like, oh, well, he just made this really cool magic item because he's blinded now so he can see without his eyes. So you should try to locate item spell on this item. Here's where it is. And he was like, cool, you gotta have anything in the shop you want. And I was like, sweet, new gear for me, moving on. So
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
but yeah,
I don't know if that has to do with first time DM
nothing,
mistakes.
but it was awesome.
And that's what really matters.
Yeah, having fun. I mean, that's the most memorable stuff, is stuff I'm sure the DM didn't plan.
Yeah.
So you got, again, rolling with the punches, kind of going with the flow. Your players come up with something, and you just kind of go with it. I can't think of any other mistakes that have been made by DMs I've played with, other than like the...
being too soft. You could definitely be too soft at the same time you
Yeah.
could be too hard. You know?
That's true.
If the characters are asking for it and they just keep asking to get killed over and over and over again,
You kill him.
then if at some point you just gotta
Fucking
kill them
kill him.
because they want you to, I guess.
Torah.
Yeah, I didn't think this past game was gonna go as crazy as it was gonna go,
Yeah,
but it got a little hairy there for a second.
sure.
You were almost...
I felt it.
I was ready to kill you. As soon as I killed you, I would have killed the drow. But I
Yeah.
felt
I
bad.
would have brought you back.
Yeah, he would.
I guess that's true. He could have killed you and then immediately turned on the drow because the spell would have been over.
That was my new plan after
would've
I
killed the
realized I
drow
had
pretty
to
bad.
keep attacking you.
It was annoying.
Yeah, I'm glad
That
you got
actually
him.
might have been our best strategy. It's just fucking kill Rag,
Just let him die.
and then I bring him back, and we keep going.
Yeah.
You're just saying that because you're a dwarf.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Also, don't be, again, a mistake, but, don't be afraid to throw stupid things and made up stuff in there just because it's funny. Like your dwarf forgetting what stones are for 9 hours because he's the fucking liar.
You stoned.
Inflates his roll to 30, even though it was like 16, maybe.
30's hard to get for rolls.
You rolled a 6
Yeah.
plus your intelligence modifier
And a 1
Zero.
on guidance.
plus 1 from guidance, which is
Yeah.
7, and double your proficiency bonus.
Yeah.
Which
So
is-
11.
Yeah, that sounds
And you
bad.
said 30.
Yeah. But you're saying it like I tried to lie and get 30, but I picked a number that you knew I didn't have, and I said it like an asshole so you knew I was
If you
lying.
rolled a 20,
And it would have just
and
been.
then it would have been that would have been a 29 right there. And I didn't know what you rolled on guidance.
Yeah,
it,
but I
it was
said-
in type.
It's a 30. Like I said it, and you knew I was lying immediately.
I didn't know you were lying.
Yes, you did. You were like, "Are you lying?" And I said, "Yes."
Fucking liar.
So, yeah, he's right. He did lie.
Yes, but I did it. It's not like I'm trying to break the rules or anything.
That's what lying
I
is.
did it on a check for funsies.
For stone cutting.
Whatever, man. No rocks for you.
Yeah, I don't need any rocks. I don't need them, Ted.
No red rocks?
No. Well, almost.
Racks.
There was almost none of those.
There was almost none left.
Those almost turned to rags.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So
Money, red
I feel
rags.
like we've covered a lot of stuff for DM mistakes.
Yeah,
I
I'll
don't
do
know
those
if there's much
Too many
more that I can think of that are
Right.
common mistakes that are
Only
made.
if the people have questions.
And also, right now, it doesn't look like. I know we had a couple people watching. I don't know if anybody has any questions in the chat.
And we got a
But-
couple subscribers.
We did, which is always nice. We appreciate that.
We do.
I don't know if you guys have anything else that you want to D&D related things going on, things you want to discuss or talk about or?
No,
Rest in peace, Pork.
Oh yeah. What do you do when somebody dies in the middle of the game? Like, when do you make that person a new character?
Well, that depends. Do they want to make a new character, or do they want to get resurrected? Because
Let's say they can't get resurrected right now. They need it. It gets to the point where they have to make a new character.
okay, well that's a little tricky because obviously if they're not doing anything for that game, obviously that's like okay, well we continue on or whatever we're doing, start making a new character. So that way they're at least not completely disengaged.
Right.
I mean, if they still want to be there and be around, unless they're like, yeah, I'm you know, it's cool, I got stuff going on, I'll just go home now anyway, and that's fine by me.
Right.
Hang on. An error I see at times is a DM not really allowing a warlock/cleric to give much attention to their patron/deity. I play a level 6 warlock that is on a mission from her patron to find a lost artifact for her, and he hasn't done much with it yet. Okay,
Yeah.
I could definitely see that.
Yeah, makes sense.
Is that a book campaign? There?
I don't believe so, based on just the patron is Glacia, so I doubt it. But yeah, that is tricky, especially if you have a very heavy religious, divine-based campaign where we have a cleric and a paladin. There's potentially a lot of options for
A lot of
that.
Illmater going on.
I'm pretty sure my people have a god too.
Well, I'm going to leave that to you to figure all that stuff out. But
I'm pretty sure.
you know what? What I think part of the reason with that is, personally, my thought is deities are much less stressed in 5e than they were. Like in 3.5, there was a spot on your character sheet for your deity,
Yeah.
and it was a decision that you had to make, and it influenced a lot to your character. Like you had to be within one alignment step of your deity. Like if your deity was chaotic good, you could be
Neutral.
chaotic good, you could be chaotic neutral, or you could be like chaotic evil or whatever. Like I might be messing that up, but like you had to be within a certain degree of that. Otherwise, you couldn't worship that deity and still be whatever you were.
Right.
So that was kind of a big focus on that. It also dictated what spells you could cast. Like certain spells were evil aligned spells, so only if you were an evil class, if you were evil alignment, could you cast evil spells. Same thing with good spells, and there were even neutral spells.
Sure.
So that was a big part of it. Like you couldn't cast inflict wounds as a good cleric, which is not a thing you could do.
I can do it.
You can.
So, that was just kind of an option. Like I think the heal spells might have been good, or they might have just been neutral. I don't remember, but there was a big stress to that, and there's not really in this game. Like you could play an entire game and have a deity never come up.
Yep.
In a lot of situations, it's on you as the player to involve your deity in the game.
Invoke 'em.
Although as a paladin or a cleric, there's more focus on that because they give you your spells and there's that more divine attachment, which is unfortunate as far as I'm concerned. So what do you guys think about ways to get... I mean, I guess as a player, you're going to have to approach your DM and say, hey, listen,
To your DM.
I'm a warlock and a cleric. I have a big focus on patron and deity and all this stuff. I like it. I'd like to have that be more of a focus, at least for me and my character. What can you do to kind of facilitate that? And it can't probably hurt to approach with ideas for like, hey, I know we're kind of doing this. Do you think maybe like at such and such a part, I could get a message from my deity, or I could go to a temple of my deity and there'd be a message there for me or whatever.
Right.
You guys have any?
I had a dream. At one time. Yeah. As far as getting your deity, but the dungeon master is the only way to get what you want. As far as getting an adventure, for to be able to do that, or you could just continue to talk to the other players about it constantly and hope the dungeon master gets, or just be like, all right, I'm off to find my deity's thing, and then the dungeon master has to work with you on it.
That's true.
It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, you
You're
could
gonna
also
do that.
work with your fellow players to see if they have something, maybe not deity given, but something similar to that. Like, maybe you have another character that really wants to find their long lost brother, or something like that. And you say, listen, you bring it up in game, bring it up out of game, talk it over with that player, and then bring it up in game, and like try to find a scenario where you can be like, Glacia really wants me to find this thing for her, and I really want to do this. I remember that you were having problems finding, your long lost brother. How about you come with me, and we'll go find this, and then I will be indebted to you, and I will help you find your brother as whatever possible. Maybe even you could talk up if you lie or whatever you want to do. Like
The magic
maybe
item
this
you're trying to
item might
find.
help me to help you find your brother or whatever it is, and get the player interested in your idea, and then get the character interested in your idea, and then I feel like it's really like the DM would be working against you to make that not be a thing.
But I mean, at the same time, I wouldn't just bring that on the DM. Because if you were running a game and halfway through you found out that 2 of your players talked about it and they wanted to derail it and didn't even give you a heads up,
True.
I'd be pretty annoyed. Just like, in that scenario, I mean, I would just ask your DM, like, listen, I want to do this side quest. Glassy sent me on a quest. I think it'd be cool if we
I
did
want to do that soon.
We do that, yeah. What I did when I was running a game to try and get one of those, I had a warlock looking for like an artifact. We were doing Horde of the Dragon Queen. He was looking for an artifact that had been accidentally captured into the Dragon Horde. So he was on his mission, and they to get the artifact, and they kind of
overlapped.
Like that.
Clever.
Gotcha.
So, I mean, that's an idea for a DM if you want to include that. Just kind of find a way to rope it into your main quest.
Sure.
So they're doing both at the same time.
This is also that.
Yeah, that's it is unfortunate to me because I typically like to play divine characters, so those I have a connection with divine characters over the years. So
As we were talking about, like, deities not coming up, I think I know of the last game that we played for over a year. I think I know one of your deities.
I mean, one of the characters.
One of the characters' deities. I know that Torgar worshipped Moradin.
Yeah.
That's all I know. I don't know what you were. I don't know what Scott worshipped.
I don't think they worshipped anything.
I don't know if Scott had a deity because he was a
Weren't you
warlock.
a paladin?
I was. I brought my deity up before.
Yeah, but I forget what his name was.
Yeah, he forgot what her name was quite often.
Oops.
Like right now.
I wrote a whole long backstory in a Google Doc that exists somewhere, all about the whole story about how she comes into play and all that stuff.
I don't remember.
Sent him the link.
Ilmater.
Read it.
That
That was
nobody.
a year ago.
Yeah.
Like nobody's better than Ilmater.
Well, you say that now with your hair shirt.
Yeah.
You bring that up often though, and that's become a part of the
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
That's my character's. It's driving.
Right.
Besides being friends with Gundred Rockseeker, but now we don't have anything to do.
No.
So I think we'll go to Neverwinter and I'll visit the temple and be like, "Hey, temple guys, what do you want me to do, temple guys?
Sup, Bill?
Gotcha. What do you want? I
Sun
see.
Soul
I'm here for
guys.
my next assignment." Oh yeah, we're trying to get this guy back to Limbo.
Yeah.
Too.
What happens if he gets back to Limbo?
But then he's gone.
Then I get my ship and I bring it back.
Oh, you're gonna bring it. I see.
And then
So
we're
you're
all going to Limbo. Whatever
I don't-
that
I
is.
Then we
never
can
had-
astral travel anywhere. Because I'll get my Pit Boy.
Fast
Go to the
travel.
positive plane.
Where everything's nice.
We good?
It's a good place.
Yeah, it's like heaven.
Unfortunately, it's all
great.
run by mind flayers that are just controlling your mind.
Oh,
But do I still think I'm in heaven? I'll take it.
So it's the Matrix.
close enough.
Yeah, I'll go to the Matrix. Plug me in, man.
But really, what's happening to you is
Not so great.
Yeah, but I'm in the Matrix, so I can't tell.
Yeah.
if you ever get pulled out of it.
Oh, don't pull me out of the Matrix.
Leave me in
The
there.
mind flayers, they flay minds. They live eventually. Once they pull, you
Well, then I don't want any of this. Then I'm not going on any plane.
Yeah,
trip.
we're not going to Limbo.
Not going
you
on
can
a
go to
plane trip.
Limbo.
I'm gonna stay
Sounds
right here.
terrible. I don't want to be there.
Limbo is very chaotic for those who aren't mind flayers again. You should look it up.
I got a -1 intelligence and a 0 wisdom.
Oh, we'll control you just fine.
Yeah, I'll just stay away from there. Maybe hope that
We should go on a
Ilmater.
quest. We should go on a quest to get your character a headband of intellect. Bumped up to a 19. I don't know. You're like,
I understand so much now.
Quite.
What's your attunement situation look like?
Oh, well, I gotta be pretty close to being fully
You got the
attuned.
gauntlets of ogre power, which
Yep.
is 1.
And then I got my boots, which is 2.
Oh, I forgot about the boots.
Yeah, but I don't know if I'm gonna keep the boots.
Striding in spring.
Yeah,
3 times your jumps.
yeah, but I don't jump a lot.
No, you haven't really had to do that.
Is bag of tricks required to?
No. And my sword isn't, and neither is Lightbringer, is it?
Nope.
So, just the 2 right now.
You don't believe Lightbringer is. That doesn't say, but
Doesn't seem like it would be.
I don't think it's that great, yeah.
Yeah. That extra damage to undead is not bad, but...
Does the breastplate of dragon...
Breath
It
advantage,
doesn't say,
say?
but I'll have to look. It's a +1 armor, which typically doesn't. It has an extra bonus, but
yeah, 'cause I don't think I have anything that requires attunement.
I need more stuff about your guys' characters. That's what I need.
Flint Thunder Britches?
For next week, I need more stuff about your characters.
Alright, I'll write you a little thing.
So write me up a little thing.
Alright.
And get it to me
Sure.
somehow, Facebook or whatever. Email.
Did we
Yeah.
retcon the whole dark period where Flint worshipped Kalimvor?
Do you want to?
It makes it easier.
Let's do that.
Alright.
Alright.
He had
It's
a
always
weird couple
nice.
years there.
Well, before
It's
we
email for a
end
while.
the stream here, do you guys have anything else that you want to discuss? Talk about D&D that you think would be good on the discussion piece here.
Dance.
Dancing in Dungeons and Dragons and discussing.
Performance check.
Quadruple D.
Something fun to talk about next time.
Hey guys, I'll put it out to everybody here. We don't currently have an idea for a topic for next week. So you guys, I could say you could message them here, but by the time we see them, it might be too late. The stream might be off. But if this hits YouTube, you can comment on the YouTube channel. You can send emails at nerdimmersion@gmail.com. You can send messages here on Twitch, Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, Pinterest, whatever you want. We're everywhere. So send us a message with an idea for a topic. If not, we'll come up with one. You guys can feel free to come up with them too.
Yeah. Come up with something cool.
Just something to talk about. We've had some good stuff so far.
Unique classes and races.
I was gonna say something like that. Like a min-max race class combo that you'd like to play but haven't gotten to.
Okay, I like it. All right.
Get
So
us.
maybe, you know what? Let's just make that this. So the perfect combination of race and class for you as a player that you want to play but have not yet been able to.
Alright.
That'll be the discussion for next week.
Sounds cool.
So send us your ideas for character classes. And with that, guys, we'll see you next time.
So yeah, I want